Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for joining our webinar today, Mastering Online Program Marketing, Strategies for Success in a Sea of Change. Before we get started, I did just want to begin with a few housekeeping details. So we intend to share our presentation for around the first 45 minutes or so, and want to make sure we also leave time within the hour for any questions that might come up throughout the presentation based on anything that we cover, and we'll do our best to answer those at the end. So certainly chat or ask questions within the Zoom control panel as well. And then afterwards, we will be sharing out the recording and a link to the presentation as well for all of you, and also offer a post-webinar survey for you to take once we wrap up here. So please certainly participate and engage in any way that you'd like to. So I will start off with some quick introductions. So I'm Mark Cunningham, EVP of Graduate and Online Solutions for Carnegie. I'm joined by two colleagues, Melissa Ricos, our EVP of Enrollment and Marketing Strategy, and Anderson Murphy, VP of Data Intelligence. And in terms of Carnegie and just some of the things that we're bringing to the table for what we're presenting on today, I do just want to highlight that of the hundreds of institutions that we do support in a variety of ways, over 75 of those are ones that we do help to support the marketing and recruitment strategies for their online programs. And that does enable us to have a whole ton of data and different types of research that we have access to based on all the work that we do for them, different types of insights and benchmarks that we can lean into that contribute to a lot of the information that we're sharing today, as well as contribute to a lot of the way that we work with and add value for the partners that we serve. And we're also proud industry leading partners of a lot of industry organizations as well, UPSEA, NAGAP, LinkedIn, Meta, Slate, and others. And that contributes a lot to the type of information that we're sharing today, a lot of the work that we do to produce research and insights throughout the year as well. So we're bringing a lot of that to bear for our webinar here. So today we plan on spending a little bit of time just covering some current market trends as we and some of our partners see them. We'll spend some time on data-driven marketing strategies and thoughts, as well as digital lead generation and engagement best practices, and then the all-important topic of performance measurement as well. And then, as I mentioned before, leaving some time for some questions that we hope to answer for you throughout. So starting with current market trends. We're certainly experiencing a sea of change and continued just growth and development within the world of online education. The demand for it continues to steadily grow as well. If you look at some of the data over on the left, virtually all institutions are offering some form of online programming and education today, which offers a lot of choice and opportunity out there, as well as a lot of competitive dynamics as we look at all of that. Students are choosing online based on the flexibility that it offers to them. They're obviously at all different stages of their life and professional career or education path, and so the flexibility that it does offer certainly is a significant factor involved. We do also see that a large portion of those that are pursuing online education are 30 years old or older, and it just speaks to the different aspects that we need to think about in terms of their age, their journey, where they are in their career and education path, for the way that we might strategize around the different type of targeting and outreach and marketing that we need to apply. And we also see actually a growing number of just preference for online education as we look at the graduate population as well. 41% of US graduate students preferring online education to traditional education. We need to think about that in terms of how we're packaging up what we offer to them, the way that we're marketing and speaking to them as well. And just from a volume standpoint, over 10 million students are enrolled in distance education, online education, when we look back to fall of 2022. Our friend and partner, Jim Fong at UPSEA, I was emailing with him about this webinar that we were conducting today, and curious about some of his thoughts and some of the data and research that UPSEA has along these lines. And he shared some of his thoughts as well in part of our conversation, so I thought I'd share that as well as we think about some of the current market trends. Some of what he had said was, we see the market getting tighter and that there needs to be stackable approach in the future. We are seeing more and more institutions go from individual program to more of a stackable pathway. For example, marketing a master's degree in data analytics is becoming more attractive if one can earn a certificate along the way or convert into a master's degree later. Also, there's too much economic risk currently, especially at the undergraduate adult learner degree completion pathway. It speaks just a lot of the way that students are pursuing different types of options and offerings, modalities, as well as some of what's happening out there for just the different types of offerings that we need to be considering making available as well. And continuing with UPSEA, they actually had done some research earlier this year about OPM usage and those that are partnering with OPMs for some of the support that they're looking for their online programs. And with the 115 individuals that participated in their survey, roughly half of them said that they are currently working when partnered with an OPM for their needs here. And interestingly, of those that said no, 30% of those, or 29% of those, had said that they formally had worked with an OPM before. So that does speak to some of the trend that you see so much out there about institutions exploring alternatives or moving away from OPM as their partners in these areas. When you even look at those that had said yes, they are partnered with them, only 42% describe themselves as being satisfied or highly satisfied with the services being provided by their OPM partner. And 61% of those that had said yes, they are working with an OPM had said that they do anticipate making changes to that within the next year or two. So again, speaking to a lot of the change that's happening in that environment. From a services provided by OPMs that these institutions are working with, it definitely the bulk of that is marketing and recruitment services. You see that, but also the breadth of services that institutions are leaning on those is reflected, in varying capacities in different ways throughout the percentages that you see here. This also speaks to some of the aspects of what institutions lean on OPMs for and what they are now taking more and more in-house. And so as they think about the partners that they need across those other categories, those are a lot of the things that are being now more and more handled in-house, and the need for marketing and recruitment services still being something that they are in need of a partner for. So when we take a step back and think about some of the key strategies and trends that we see out there, as I was just mentioning, even just that OPM landscape and dynamic of a lot of institutions stepping away from that type of arrangement, that does enable these institutions to lean into their brand and personality more and more. A lot of work can be done to make sure that the marketing that you're doing for your online programs does reflect and lean into your institutional brand and the unique personality that you have. This wasn't as much a possibility before when OPMs were owning so much of that part of the process. So the fact that you can differentiate yourself, speak to audiences in ways that will resonate much better, is certainly something that is a trend that we see. A little bit similarly, the world of personalization as well. There's a growing emphasis on personalization as we are marketing online programs. And that is both in terms of capability today. So it is much more possible to target and segment and again, speak to folks in a much more personalized way, but also in terms of expectation of audiences. There is much more of an expectation for us to know who they are and where they're at based on whatever they might have been telling you, and personalizing that recruitment strategy is key. Leveraging data analytics to inform strategy as well as optimize your strategy and the campaigns that you're running is a big thing today, and we'll speak a little bit more about that. And some of just the core and foundational approaches still continue to be something that is a major part of just how institutions are marketing their online programs today. So leaning into the paid social aspects of reaching, engaging, creating awareness and interest in your programs through all the different social media channels, capturing their interests and intent through the different forms of search engine marketing and pay-per-click and SEO, and then ensuring that your website is set up in a way that it's capturing that interest as well and converting those prospective students in all the ways that we need to. So those core and foundational strategies, as much as there's plenty of shiny new toys and other things that we can look at from an innovative standpoint, still is in play. There's also a much higher expectation for quality lead generation that will lead to the ability to cultivate and nurture those prospective students and drive through to performance and yield, right? And ultimately enrollment. So it's not just about high volume quantity of names, but truly quality lead generation that will convert. We see a big trend in the concepts of performance marketing. And when we talk about performance marketing, what we're talking about there is going beyond simply the marketing campaign metrics and measurements and definitions of success, and really looking at things additionally through the enrollment and funnel lens. So defining success around the different metrics that you have in your enrollment funnel. So inquiries, applications, accepted students, deposits, and enrolled students. And having those be part of the definition of success in addition to the marketing campaign performance, so that you can track and report on those goals, as well as continue to optimize your strategies throughout. A lot of what we've discussed in terms of just the wave of moving away from OPMs, as well as just the expectations of today, also speak to just the expectation and requirement around transparency and control for you as the institution. So being able to see what's going into all of the efforts, what's being spent, what's being optimized, and reporting on that and having full visibility on that is just almost table stakes and a baseline expectation today. And then, as we've talked about, the departure from a lot of the role that OPMs were playing in this space, and the no PM movement that we would describe around institutions really looking at alternatives and a lot of what they can handle in-house for their overall online program management and marketing needs. So with that, I'll hand things over to my colleague, Melissa Ricos, who will take us through to some of the next areas of our presentation today.
Thank you, Mark. So we're going to begin by talking a little bit about data-driven marketing, and I think it's important to take a little bit of a beat and talk about what we mean by data-driven marketing. And data-driven marketing has multiple phases, and it really means tapping into all of the data that you might have available to you in making those marketing decisions. So first of all, when we look at sort of the foundation of data, this incorporates a lot of your institutional information or your school or program persona and personality. So what we're really talking about is, who are you saying you are? What are you putting out into the marketplace as value propositions, as tone, the language that you're using, and what are you really saying about yourself? And then there's the external perception, and this is what others are saying about you. So how are you being perceived in the marketplace? And that could be over the institution as a whole, your online schools, your graduate schools, or even at the programmatic level. What's being said about you? And this is important to know, because that way you know what information to lean into that are some strengths you can capitalize on, versus what are some potentially misperceptions that you need to use your messaging and your marketing to overcome and correct. And then who are your competitors and what are they claiming to be? What are their value propositions that they're putting out into the marketplace? What types of tone are they using? What are the facts about their program that they're saying? And when you have all of this and that all comes together, it helps you to define your market position. So if you're not doing this fundamental research, it's definitely something to take a look at and consider different research opportunities to gather that data. In addition to sort of the bigger breadth that I just talked about, then there's your program marketing research. How well do you understand the way your programs are being searched for? What are the successful keywords and social media and things like that that people are digesting around that particular individual program? Also, what are some of the pros and cons of the program interest? Where is there high demand? What does the landscape look like for the appetite for that program? And what are the information seeking habits of potential students that might be seeking out that program? Because this will help you to align the methodology you choose to be utilizing to communicate with them and ensure that it's really the way that they want to be communicated with, and ensure that you're using proper keywords and that you're actually marketing a program in a way that meets your students' needs. Additionally, there's market opportunity indexing. And what we mean by this is really taking a look at what are those geographic opportunities for any given program that you will have. As we all know, online programs have the unique advantage of a student technically being able to be anywhere, but we all know that the research shows us that most those students still tend to be within a 60-mile radius of your campus. And that's where brand familiarity really takes over. But if we're looking to branch beyond that and really take a look at what those opportunities may be in other DMAs or counties or zip codes, a market opportunity index helps you to assess what's the demand for that program in another area outside your main area. So what does that competition look like for that program? Do you have a unique program that might be desirable somewhere where there are no other options for students? Are there employers that are located in specific geographic areas that might be creating a higher demand for that program in that area? And is that a void you can fill with your program? So taking a look at a little further out, but always driving those decisions based on data and market research. Next would be audience research. So really developing your audience research in such a way that you can be as precise in your targeting as possible. We all know we do not have unlimited budgets, and that enables us to ensure that we are spending our budgets in the most appropriate way possible and talking to the right student at the right time in their journey. So some of the ways that you can really utilize audience development, using your own CRM data, beginning with that. Where do these students come from? Do they come from particular job modalities? Do they come from particular academic backgrounds? If it's a graduate program, are you seeing some trends with the undergraduate degrees that they might have? Utilizing your own Google Analytics. And then there's a lot of channel tools, things like Google's Keyword Planner. There are some strategies that LinkedIn and Meta offer that we're going to talk about in a moment. And really looking at partner data as well, working closely with a partner such as Carnegie or someone else that can also provide you with some details on audience development. We have a Carnegie Clarity product that helps with that. We're going to talk about that in a moment, but also looking at different ways that you can target offline data as well. So are there household income requirements? Are you targeting military? Are you targeting some specific segment or audience that you need to leverage that offline data in order to reach those households appropriately? The channel tools also include the reports and aggregated data of those channels. So for example, our premier partnership with LinkedIn gives us access to things like the LinkedIn Talent Pool report and a whole plethora of other resources that LinkedIn offers to really be able to look at what are those job skill demands and where are those focused that might be outcomes from the degree programs that you're looking at. Another key data point is benchmark data. It's great to say that a particular campaign is performing really well, or maybe that it's struggling in some way, but the context around that is really critical. If I tell you a campaign is performing well, the answer should always be in comparison to what. So understanding that you need to truly have that context in order to evaluate. So here at Carnegie, we track benchmark data and performance at a very granular level. There are some industry benchmarks that are out there, but that tends to aggregate higher education data. So you're sort of muddying the water of online with traditional undergraduate, obviously very different audiences, and even across different academic areas. The cost and benchmarking on something like an MBA is very different than on many other programs. So making sure that you're benchmarking across accurate, similar academic programs, schools that are more similar to you, and of course, audiences that are more similar to the audience that you're tracking. One of the things that we're going to talk about, and Anderson's going to speak in depth about this, but looking at your investment strategy. This is part of sort of a bottom-up approach and really reverse engineering where a budget should sit. We have schools all the time that will say to us, how much money does it cost to market program X? Well, the answer, unfortunately, is it depends. It depends on so many factors, everything from brand awareness to your individual funnel data and how many students does it take at the top of your lead funnel in order to produce an enrolled student. That may vary drastically from another institution, coupled also with your demographic data. It obviously costs a lot more to market certain programs in highly congested urban environments where you have a lot of opportunity for competition versus perhaps a more rural area. So what we like to do is start with your goal, always starting with the goal in mind, so that we can take a look at your funnel and reverse engineer up how much money do you need to be spending on that program in order to effectively reach your goal. And so this is a different way of approaching as well. And we recognize that many of our budgets are capped. So it's not like we can completely do this with every program, but even working within your capped program, it helps expectations be set properly. And it also helps you go back and ask for the budgets that are appropriate if you have the opportunity to do so. So Anderson's going to be digging a little bit more into this with performance marketing. So we're going to talk a little bit about lead generation and engagement best practices. I think one of the things we have to all recognize is that we have competition for attention. So how do we engage with our audiences in a way that can result in the interactions that we're really looking for? So digital marketing encompasses a whole host of different solutions, and we have a few of the more common ones listed here on this slide, as you can see. But the key is that each one of these has its strengths and has its weaknesses, and they are not all equal. So taking a look at your goals is a really important piece of this here, and making sure that you're aligning the channel strategy with the goals that you're trying to overcome. For example, early on in awareness-driven campaign and branding, we're looking at things that essentially interrupt someone's online experience. So this is where we're leveraging things like social media, display, streaming, TV and radio, and even SEO to some extent. So these are really where we're interrupting someone's experience to tell them about something they do not already know about. These types of strategies do not have the same quick linear conversions that we see with some other strategies because they're simply not designed that way. However, they're just as important because they lay the foundational framework for somebody to be looking for you with higher intent as they progress through their journey. So if we look a little further down at something like lead nurturing, for example, that is further down in someone's journey, something like display retargeting, where we're being responsive to the fact that a student has already been on your website and being able to coax them along to what we want them to do next, let them know about application deadlines, let them know about information sessions, or other items like that that are really critical for them to know about. We can get back in front of them with that. And something such as like PPC with using RLSA. RLSA is essentially when somebody Googles on paid search, if that is somebody that is in your retargeting bucket, for a better word, that means somebody that's already been to your website. So if I've already been to your website and I'm searching on keywords that are really pivotal, if I've already been to your website, I'm further down the funnel, I already know about you. You can speak to me slightly different than you might speak to somebody else who's not in that bucket. So we're really getting down to how do we create those conversion-oriented strategies. So understanding we need to put the right tools in the toolbox and at the right time in the student's journey. UPSEA recently did some research really taking a look at, for paid social media advertising, what were schools currently using? And as you see here, it's quite the mix. Facebook and Instagram still carry a lot of the heavy load, but when we get into those graduate programs, LinkedIn is a tremendous source for being able to do highly targeted campaigns. But you'll also see the presence of Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, and really adding and layering in those strategies because they apply to different students. Different students choose to communicate in different ways and digest content in different ways. So wherever budget allows, we want to be layering as many of those strategies in as possible. But when you look below, the most effective marketing channel is paid search in Google. And I want to pause for just a moment to talk about the word effective, because the word effective usually means the ability to track a linear conversion that results in the ability for us to tie that ROI back to that specific channel. And as I mentioned just a moment ago, a lot of those branding and awareness strategies are not designed to create an immediate conversion. However, if we want somebody to search for exactly what we're offering or search on our institution, we have to let them know about it first so that they can then utilize Google and paid search in order to come back around to us as they get deeper into their research. So they all play a role, but not all can be tracked in the exact same way. So let's talk a little bit about Meta and some best practices for how you can do some of your audience targeting. So with Meta, when the students are over 18, you can do in-platform lead generation, which basically means a form for them to complete that helps by pre-populating and allows them to submit an RFI form without actually leaving the platform that they're digesting content on. If a student is under 18, this service is not available. So within Facebook and Instagram, there's a lot of advanced targeting that we can do. Everything from schools that they might have attended, areas of interest that they're enjoying while they're surfing through those particular channels, their employers, job title, anything like that that they enter in their profile information can be a targeting capability. Again, I just want to asterisk this if you happen to have some online programs that are geared towards traditional age students when they're coming out of high school. This is also not available for students under the age of 18. Another key thing to do is experiment with diverse content formats. We all digest content a little bit differently, so we want to make sure that we're experimenting with that for each individual program to really determine what works best, and also to appeal to the different likes that somebody may have for attention-grabbing video or the types of imagery that they want to see. So experiment with those content formats. For LinkedIn, we also have a tremendous amount of targeting capability. Some of the ones we see very common are things like job opportunity. You can go to the next slide, Mark. Sorry. Looking at the types of jobs they currently hold, who do they work for, what areas their undergraduate degree in, location and gender obviously are a little more broad. But this really allows us to hone in. So if you have programs where somebody needs to have a particular type of degree, or you at least see through your CRM data that a lot of the students do have a degree in a particular area or do work in a particular industry, we can increase the likelihood of getting in front of the right student at the right time by leveraging a lot of these targeting capabilities in LinkedIn. When you're in there, one of the things to ensure you're doing is creating compelling ad copy. This is not the place to be very plain vanilla, launch a lot of facts. This is the place to really get a little emotive, a little emotional, and really speak to their pain points. Talking about what can we solve for you and how can we be here along the way in your journey. So make sure that ad copy really grabs their attention. Similarly, with the creative, we want to make sure that we're using high quality visuals. I know this sounds like it should be table stakes, but it is really important to grab someone's attention at the get-go. So really putting the extra effort to make sure that that creative, yes, aligns with your brand, but is also attention grabbing. Also making sure that the imagery and the words that are being used in those ads make sense for that program and align with what those prospective students might be expecting to see. LinkedIn is always evolving and creating a whole host of new opportunities. And it's really important that we test these. And a couple of the ones that you see listed here, we are beginning to test. I think one of the ones that's most interesting is the LinkedIn Connected TV. We're all at Carnegie huge fans of Connected TV and the opportunity for targeting that it gives us, and then the opportunity for video and for reaching people during long-term, long duration streaming opportunities such as Roku, Hulu, etc. With LinkedIn Connected TV, you're able to leverage LinkedIn's targeting capabilities that I was just speaking about a moment ago, and then utilize the delivery methodology of Connected TV. Very exciting and something we're getting to work closely with. LinkedIn also has something called predictive audiences, and this is really where your data and LinkedIn's powerful AI marry together. So being able to take the client data that you already have, what those students look like, how their job functions are, and marry that data with and load that data into LinkedIn and allow LinkedIn's AI to take over and really predict the success of the audience that they're reaching in terms of conversions for you. So these are just some examples of when we layered in predictive audiences with a one-year MBA program. These are pretty impressive lifts, seeing 48% lower cost per lead, 58% higher lead form completion rate, and 93% higher click-through rates, as opposed to just simple demographic targeting. Very impressive. And so this is a perfect example of where leaning into AI within the marketing channels is proving very successful. We'd be remiss not to talk a little bit about Snapchat and TikTok. These are obviously platforms that, if you go back 5 years ago, we would have only been talking for younger audiences. However, that younger audience from 5 years ago has now graduated into being an older audience that is very often in our target audience pool. So Snapchat, a couple key features that really set it a little bit aside. As I mentioned before, there are some limitations in Meta with under 18 audiences. However, with Snapchat, we are able to do that in-platform lead generation, as well as targeting very specific lists that you may have and reaching them within their feed. This we can still do for under 18 on Snapchat, which we cannot do with Meta any longer. TikTok really allows us to also utilize keyword targeting and really produces very rich content lead forms. So consider adding in TikTok. I see we have a question. So a question about whether you need to have a very robust Snapchat organic presence in order to do this. And the answer is no, but you do need to have an account in order for us to be able to set up all those links properly. So the big behemoth of our budgets, no doubt, as well as where we really see those direct conversions, is search. So when we talk about search, there's really paid search and organic search. So I'm going to touch for just a moment on paid search, most specifically related to Google. So with looking at some research that Carnegie and NAGAP did in conjunction with one another, we really wanted to ask, when students are going on and searching within Google, what are they searching for and how far along are they on their journey? And I think the important number here is that only 17% of these students actually knew both the program and the institution that they wanted to attend. So what this tells us is we have a lot of opportunity here that we can tap into in being present when students are searching for our types of programs that we have or similar institutions that we might be able to be present in those searches and get them to do the research on us. So this number really represents opportunity. So when we're talking about building out a strong paid search campaign, there's a few things to keep in mind. Google's Keyword Planner can really help you in looking at historical and forecasted data to really identify those relevant keywords. We all know with any program there are some obvious ones, but sometimes there are the less obvious ones as well. That might be somebody looking for one program, your program might be similar, and how do we reach that audience? Also looking at different match types, and what we mean by that is if you sort of think of the exactness within which someone's search has to match the keywords that you're purchasing. So if we have a very broad keyword term and a very broad match, then that just means that that word can appear anywhere in their search. The good news on that is it gives us a lot of exposure in terms of appearing. The bad news is that that is very expensive because you're seeking out a keyword that there's a lot of bidding on. And also you might be getting some irrelevant searches that this may not be exactly what they're looking for. On the contrasting extreme, you could have a very exact match requirement. The good news on this is if it does happen to match what a student's searching for, it's a pinpoint accuracy. So you're more likely to be making sure you're getting in front of a student with the exact thing they're looking for. The bad news is the volume is going to be very small. So the key is to find a balance and have a little bit of both. And that's where really our team works so closely with Google and the research that we do just to make sure we're hitting that sweet spot of both in order to balance within a budget. Also, you want to make sure you're layering negative keywords. Negative keywords are ensuring that your ad is not appearing in an irrelevant search. We see this a lot with a competition on campus, for example, where we might have overlap between an on-ground and an online program that are both trying to bid on the same keywords. Well, the problem with that is you're going to actually increase the overarching cost for the purchase of that keyword because you're bidding against each other. And then more importantly, you're also going to create a negative student experience, because if I'm looking for an online program and the only one that's coming up in my search is on ground or vice versa, I might assume that you don't have what I'm really looking for. So negative keywords can help offset some of this by loading in keywords to ensure that you're not coming up if somebody is looking for online where you're not online, or on ground if you're not on ground. Leveraging PPC responsive search ads, again, just touching on some of the AI capabilities within digital marketing. This is really allowing Google's AI to do some heavy lift for you. By loading in several different types of headlines and several different descriptions, Google will marry those two up based on that individual that it's putting for, that's actually conducting the search, and put forth the ad that they feel is the most compelling and might be the most likely to be clicked on by them. It's constant innovation and iteration, and also predictive. So looking at how can it create the highest likelihood of a click-through. And this is really something that you want to consider doing, because allowing their AI to do this A/B CD type testing for you is something that we really leverage a lot. We want to always have the strongest ads possible. And then making sure you're using the real estate that Google offers. So Google offers things like callouts and structured snippets and site links. So taking up a lot more real estate to say what you want to say about your particular program for these keywords that you're bidding on. I want to take a moment to just call out the site links specifically, just utilizing the example I said a moment ago about an on-ground and an online program. If it is necessary for both of those programs to be purchasing the same keyword, sometimes site links is a great way to overcome that challenge, because you can allow the student, once the ad comes in, to have the on-ground and online link, and allow the student to self-select which one they were actually interested in, and thereby allowing you to bid on the same keyword, but allowing the student experience to be much more pleasant. When you merge your paid search campaign with a strong organic SEO plan, what this allows you to do is really look at the research that's being done for SEO and the results that are coming out of SEO, and help that to inform the keyword strategy that you're putting in place with paid. And these are just a few numbers from one particular campaign that we did this with. And when we leveraged that research that came out of the organic SEO work, we saw a 159% increase in organic traffic and a 138% increase in paid conversions. So actually, as you can see, they lift both of one another up. So this is the goal by aligning those two strategies. Obviously, there are constantly new things coming out, so we're always a fan of innovation, but we always say with a little bit of caution. So as all of these shiny new digital marketing toys come out, we want to make sure that we're vetting all of them. Not everything works for higher education. Not everything keeps our brands as safe as we always need our brands to be. So always keeping an eye on the vetting, but always keeping an eye on what's the new thing that's coming out. AI is driving a lot of this. And so we're keeping a really close finger on the pulse of how these things are being developed. Just always remember to have a little bit of caution with vetting. So as we look to some of the challenges that we're seeing with digital marketing, one of the big ones that comes up is that the stealth applicants are increasing. We all know that that's been happening for a while. But in addition to that, what we're seeing is poor responsiveness from institutions, or inquiry engagement is really lacking. Either the RFI forms are not getting completely filled out, or we're seeing some inefficient responses to those RFI forms. So we want to keep in mind every digital marketing campaign, especially the paid that we're investing in, pay attention to where you're landing that student. What does that student's journey look like? If I have decided to engage with the ad that you spent money to get in front of me, what does that journey now look like? So ensuring that you're utilizing some best practices for those landing pages and to complete that conversion by the student. So for example, driving traffic from your ads to campaign-specific landing pages feels right, right? That feels like you are aligned with that campaign versus driving students to a much more broad page that doesn't really take into account that I already showed interest in something or I wouldn't have clicked on the ad. Additionally, A/B testing at all times to make sure that you're in real time getting an idea for what students really want to experience. Optimizing your website content to meet the user's needs. I'm going to talk about website personalization as a solution for that in a moment. And then making sure that you're integrating with your CRM to make that efficiency happen so that if I do inquire with you, I get some response back from you and I'm truly getting an appropriate email or drip campaign if you're setting up a full drip campaign, but making sure you're leveraging a connection with your CRM. So website personalization, and Mark touched on this at the very beginning, has become an expectation by students. If you think about all their other consumer behavior, everything is responding to something they have already done. So even if I haven't given you that information directly and intentionally, there is an expectation that you know something about me and what I'm looking for, just simply based on what I've already looked at on your website. So website personalization can allow that segmentation based on I came to your website and I looked at this particular type of content, whether that was scholarships and financial aid or whether that was specific program information. You already know that about me. Your website knows that about me, but how do you leverage that? So by leveraging that, you can then interrupt my experience when I return and tell me more specific information that I might have been looking for based on the content I viewed before. So if I've been looking at a particular web page and a particular program, interrupt my experience, tell me more about that program, impart an RFI form right into that website personalization experience, and reduce the friction to me getting the information that I came there to look for and receive. Maximizing your CRM really is about taking a look at how your digital marketing campaign and your CRM communication are aligned. Take advantage of one another and make sure that there's consistency. If you're going out with specific drip campaigns, talking about specific things that you would like a student to do, or talking about an event, for example, that's coming up or a deadline, make sure that your CRM and communications that are coming out for it are somewhat aligned. That should feel consistent because we want to layer those attention-grabbing messages on top of one another. So also be driving inquiry generation through targeted, personalized communication wherever possible. Segmenting is key here. Giving a huge broad swath email to all of the people that says the exact same thing and not leveraging information that you may know about them is really a missed opportunity to engage. Audience development and segmentation is so critical. That segmentation can then be utilized to drive your digital campaigns through a lot of digital strategies that are a little bit more one-to-one. So when it all comes together, and you're really leveraging all of this layering of strategies, what does that look like? So we just wanted to put up a couple of examples of some really good success with doing so. This was a military campaign focusing on the military bases themselves, really targeting and honing in on that audience. Really included a multi-channel approach using Meta and LinkedIn and paid search and military-related keywords. And we saw a increase of 294% in inquiries year over year and a 55% decrease in cost per lead. Another example was this particular school where we were really driving online graduate programs across these academic areas using paid search, display outreach, retargeting, Spotify, LinkedIn email, and Meta lead gen. And as you see, that's lots of layering. So we're catching those students at different points in their journey. And pulling all of that together saw an 87% increase in accepted applications and a 20% increase in overall enrollment. So this is what we're always driving to do. So next I'm going to turn it over to Anderson to talk a little bit about how do you measure all this and how do you make sure that you're really measuring the right thing and that you can speak to these kinds of metrics.
Yeah, thanks, Melissa. So as we jump into performance measurement, I want to kind of reiterate what we mean when we say performance measurement. And what we're talking about is measuring the outcomes of your marketing campaigns based on what is important and what matters to you. So typically that is enrollment-based outcomes like inquiries generated, applications generated, or even enrollments. But there is still good reason to analyze some of the more traditional marketing metrics alongside as well. It's not a replacement, but alongside that as well, those more traditional marketing metrics being things like impressions, clicks, or web-based conversions. So that's where we'll start here with our campaign tracking and optimization. And really here, when we're thinking about measuring all of those different marketing channels and campaigns that Melissa was referring to, we're spanning more than just a singular platform. We might be on Meta, LinkedIn, and Google Ads. And the challenge there can be uniting all of the data from those different platforms into one place. But it's really critical to do that in order to understand the holistic gain that you're getting in terms of those baseline marketing metrics and your spend across all those channels as well, of course. So at Carnegie, we utilize the API connections that all of the ad platforms provide free of charge, send that data to BigQuery to be warehoused, and we visualize that data in Looker Studio where it's all aggregated together. You don't have to use custom solutions like that. There are off-the-shelf type of solutions that act as ETL tools for you to be able to do that in a plug-and-play, click, drag and drop type of solution there as well. But doing this gives you the ability to see, like I said, all of those impressions, clicks, conversions, and things across all of your marketing campaigns. And utilizing this data, you're not going to use those metrics to perform ROI calculations or understand the true outcomes. But that level of granularity is going to help you be able to understand the effectiveness of different creatives that you might be running or different audiences that you might be testing against, or if you're doing A/B testing, which of those variants are performing better than the other. But like I said, just sort of looking at the campaign level metrics like that isn't going to get you to the performance marketing or performance measurement mindsets that you're trying to go for and be able to prove ROI and show outcomes of your campaigns. What you really need to think about is how you can utilize that CRM data to be able to form more of a full funnel approach to those marketing campaigns as well. So our solution here at Carnegie for full funnel attribution is Carnegie Clarity, which Melissa talked about a little bit from the website personalization perspective, but also offers marketing attribution. This is not a solution that you absolutely have to have in order to do full funnel attribution. It's built on a customer data platform. So if you're already using a CDP that has built-in website analytics, or perhaps your CRM has built-in analytics as well, such as Ping from Slate, then you might be already in a position from your tech stack to be able to do a lot of that full funnel attribution for your campaigns. So here, the key thing to think about is aligning those leads to an attribution source. So as users are clicking on your marketing campaigns, getting to your website, being able to configure your CRM to pull in the UTM parameters that a user engaged with. So pulling in that source from the UTM or the medium to understand if they came from paid search or paid social, and then attach that as a tag to that known record within your CRM to be able to then measure that person later on as they matriculate throughout the funnel back towards your marketing campaigns to provide some ROI. This also allows you to track content that some of the known users within your CRM are digesting on your website. So are they visiting academics pages or admissions pages or maybe campus life? Probably not in this scenario type of pages or athletics types of pages, and being able to weight the content or weight a score based on the content that they're delivering or sorry, that they're digesting. So if you're understanding that a certain person is looking for financial aid resources, they might have a higher financial aid score, and then you can then further tailor and segment or personalize your marketing efforts, whether that be in digital and email communications or website personalization down the line. Another critical piece here is just ensuring that whatever system you're using for your tech stack, whether it be your CRM or a CDP-like solution, that it's communicating back and forth with your CRM or with the marketing data and warehouse that you're utilizing for all of your marketing campaign data. Ensuring that both of those systems are always in sync is going to ensure that you have the most up-to-date and reliable information and data. Taking a step back from just the absolute measurement part of performance marketing for a second, and thinking about some of the other audience types or campaign types that Melissa talked about earlier, those more AI-led audience tools like Performance Max from Google Ads or Meta Advantage Plus or LinkedIn Predictive Audiences. Those are incredible tools that allow you to get campaigns up and running quickly and be able to put your best message forward to the right audience at the right time better than ever. But they're only as good as the data that you're feeding into those platforms. So if you're only utilizing web-based or pixel-based conversions to track performance of those campaigns, things such as form submissions on your website, you're really missing out on the full picture of giving the machine learning algorithms the data that it needs to understand the outcomes of those inquiries that they're helping you generate. It's possible that many of those inquiries, without feeding that data, are not matriculating any further. But then those ad platforms are just going to continue to optimize towards generating as many inquiry submissions as they can. But if you're able to then feed some of that offline conversion data back into those ad platforms, so setting up data feeds from your CRM or a CDP into Google Ads or into Meta, for example, those users who have been admitted or those users who have deposited or enrolled, then you're feeding that machine learning algorithm the types of information that it will utilize to go after a new audience that is more likely to take those outcome actions that you're looking for. So it's no longer just going to try to get the most number of inquiries for you that it can, for example, but it's going to go towards those people, target those users who are more likely to inquire, but then also take those outcome-based actions. Okay, and as we move into performance and outcome management, we talked a little bit earlier about creating reporting dashboards or frameworks for your campaign level metrics. But here we're talking about managing from a performance standpoint. It is really where we start to think about our total net results or outcomes of those campaigns. And earlier, Melissa talked about the program-driven investment strategy, sort of the bottom-up approach, starting with your enrollment goals and identifying how many leads you will need or how much budget you will need in order to hit those targets. Now, during that exercise, you're kind of creating your targets that you can utilize to measure the performance of your marketing campaigns. So during that exercise, you end up with, yes, a target enrollment, but also target leads, target applications, target deposits that you need in order to hit those ultimate enrollment outcomes. And now, as we think about the whole package of full funnel attribution, we're able to track exactly against those outcomes, understand where we're at in terms of our percentage to those outcomes, our percentage to our goal, and determine whether we may need to shift strategies or marketing campaigns if one Meta, for example, is performing better than a LinkedIn campaign in terms of generating inquiries that are converting to applicants. Allows us to be able to make those more strategic and bigger picture shifts with our dollars and our marketing strategy to get us something that is going to get us the results that we're looking for. And then lastly, the sort of heart of performance marketing is being able to prove and show return on investment. It's certainly one of the more challenging pieces of marketing today is proving ROI, but it's perhaps one of the most critical, especially if any of you have had to go to your CFO to ask for more marketing dollars. They're more likely going to ask what's the return going to be for that. And it can be hard to come up with an answer without a performance marketing mindset or framework in place. But here, adopting this type of full funnel approach is going to set you up for success to be able to do that. So, for example, knowing your average net tuition for the programs that you're responsible for marketing can really help you understand, put dollars to those deposit numbers. So kind of if we're going back to the prior slide and understanding that we've driven 100 deposits, now we're able to put a dollar figure to that and understand what the total revenue that we're bringing to our institution has been for those deposits. We're also able to then measure the cost per deposit that we have. So all of our marketing spend divided by all of our deposits, and determine whether that is acceptable for us. Is that going to be a profitable marketing campaign and a profitable program for us? Then we're also able to think about the return on our ad spend here as well, utilizing that. So how much should we spend on marketing dollars, and how much are we getting in terms of our revenue outside of that, or in addition to that? By looking at that metric there, also called ROAS, abbreviated here in this screenshot, you're able to, again, say whether you are being profitable with your marketing dollars, whether there's opportunity to scale up your marketing campaigns, or if you need to think about shifting. You should also be tracking your ROAS down to the channel level at least, and probably even campaign level, so that you can see the performance differences in terms of ROAS across all those different channels and campaigns. And we also have a metric here as well, student lifetime value to cost per deposit ratio. So as we think about our average net tuition, that's typically a first year tuition. What is a student going to bring us in their first year in terms of revenue? But when you think about a student enrolling in a multi-year program, perhaps they are going to be bringing more than just that 1 year. So what is their estimated total lifetime value of revenue that they're bringing to your institution? And then dividing that by your cost per deposit. And what you end up here with, again, is a ratio that determines longer term than just immediate, whether or not your campaigns are going to be profitable and something that can be sustainable for your institution down the line. And as you're able to think about profitability of your programs, you can set your own targets and benchmarks for these numbers. And as you exceed, give you opportunity to scale up and increase your marketing budgets to drive more students and enrollments. Or if for whatever reason you're not hitting that benchmark, then it gives you opportunity to identify why, which campaigns or platforms are not, and be able to shift strategy or shift dollars between campaigns and things. So really here, what we're focusing on is showing what our marketing dollars are doing for us in terms of our marketing outcomes, or our performance outcomes, being enrollments here in this case. And now I hand it back to Mark.
Thank you, Anderson, and thank you, Melissa, as well for all that you covered here today. And as we wrap things up, we did just want to kind of summarize and put together some of the kind of the checklists for mastering online program marketing. And when you're thinking about strategy, what are the things that we need to make sure that we're thinking about and checking off the list? And so, as it's been said several times here today, it starts with goals and defining those goals and aligning on those goals as well, and a few different definitions of what those goals might be, right? So what are your enrollment goals? What are the things that you need to achieve throughout the entire funnel? What are your financial and ROI goals? Some of the things that Anderson just covered in terms of, what type of performance is needed from a dollars and cents perspective, as well as what are your marketing campaign goals? And this is a lot of the reporting that Anderson described at the beginning that we might define as success. What do we need to be achieving for impressions and clicks and those types of metrics as well? But defining those and getting those on paper to ensure that everyone is working towards the same types of goals across these categories. From that will help inform what type of data do you need to gather, what type of research do you need to conduct to help with some of that data informed and driven marketing strategy, right? So whether it is program centric research or market opportunity indexing, or some of the benchmark data that you need to lean on to know whether or not you're marching towards good cost per lead type metrics as well, gathering that type of data to ensure that it's informing strategy too. That will help to develop the media plan with forecasted performance metrics, right? So it's so important to say, okay, we are putting together this plan that's going to execute upon the following, but what are we looking for to achieve? Again, both from the marketing campaign performance, but also throughout your enrollment funnel as well. So a marketing plan that speaks to the metrics and outcomes that you would anticipate and be looking for is part of the checklist that we'd be looking at. Focusing heavily on a lead gen and conversion focused channel strategy. So Melissa spent a lot of time talking about some of the best practices that are out there, and particularly from a digital marketing standpoint and website focused standpoint for lead generation and conversion optimization. So the role of branding and awareness is a critical layer to things, but also making sure that to get to those goals that we're looking for, that we are leaning into the things that are going to be most effective for lead gen. Part of that equation is having those dedicated or campaign-focused landing page or microsite or website strategy to capture and convert those audiences in the ways that they need, and be speaking to them and providing them with the destination and the information that is important for them, as well as set up to optimize for conversion in all the ways that are important for you as well. And Melissa talked quite a bit about some of the messaging that is needed, whether it's from a personalization standpoint, whether it's from some of just the visual and creative standpoint, whether it's the action-oriented messaging that'll differentiate yourself and drive to those outcomes that we need. But setting up that strategy is a critical checklist as well. And then integrating with your CRM, both for tracking and just seamless just involvement in the role that your CRM will play, but also obviously for carrying it through to further nurture and cultivation, and ultimately further down the funnel activity. Your CRM and your digital marketing and other marketing should be working hand in hand so that they're accomplishing the same type of targeting and personalization and roles within the funnel as possible. And the role that website personalization and just the user experience can play is a critical piece as well, right? The website is one of the most important, if not the most important, recruitment tools that you have in your process. And so its ability to provide that user experience that all of the different prospective students are in need of and expecting when they get there is a critical and valuable piece of the equation. And then Anderson spent so much time talking about just setting yourself up for the right types of reporting and optimization capabilities, right? And so that's marketing campaign performance, that's funnel and outcome reporting as well, and that's financial and ROI performance. And being able to look at all those things with full visibility and transparency, both for just ensuring that you are making the progress that you need to, but as well as that you're able to translate and report on that to anyone else that you're needing to as well, are all a critical piece of the equation. So with that, we did want to end, I know we're tight on time, but with a few of the questions that had come through during this. I know Melissa answered one of them already. With regards to Snapchat, we did have a few others come through as well that we'll try to get to a few of those in just a couple remaining minutes here. One of which was, does OPM refer only to marketing or to the management of educational programs itself? So when we were referring to OPM at the beginning of this presentation, some of the trends that are happening with institutions partnering with OPMs, we were referring to online program management, right? So that's kind of the all of the above that you saw actually in the third slide of that UPSIA survey that we mentioned, everything from marketing services and recruitment services on through to many of the other roles that they play. So that's in terms of online program management. So, so just for some clarification there. We also got a question, we had the Snapchat question, but Melissa, I might throw this one to you. What role do webinars or online events play in the marketing mix?
I think the biggest thing with these, and I kind of love this question, our digital team is always saying, look for an action that you can have someone take. We call those kind of micro conversions. And so anytime you can be talking about an upcoming event, something with a date, a timeline, that we can get ads in front of them and repetition, you really increase that opportunity for them to engage with you for that event. So I think from a digital marketing on, a push of marketing standpoint, really making sure that you're building those into your timeline of creative refreshes and planning, and make sure that whoever is putting those digital ads in market for you knows that those schedules, that schedule is coming up. Yeah, I love it. I love taking the opportunity to use digital marketing for a push for those events.
Great, thank you. Our next question, Anderson, I'll look to you for this one. What multi-attribution reporting tools have you found successful?
Yeah, it's a good, great question. Here at Carnegie, we utilize Clarity, our customer data platform, to be able to provide that multi-touch attribution. It is able to track all of the marketing touch points that happen before or after a user identifies themselves by applying or inquiring through an RFI form. There are certainly other platforms, and if you're on Slate as well, you can utilize its ping feature. That's its web analytics feature there to utilize to get some multi-touch attribution data there. But there are a number of third-party type of tools as well. If you're not utilizing one of those two platforms, there are others like Rockerbox or Funnel.io that are typically more like direct-to-consumer or e-commerce focused. But those are kind of incorporating not just multi-touch, but marketing mix modeling or incrementality testing into them as well, but tend to come with a rather hefty price tag on those too. But Google Analytics is certainly another option as well that has been popular for a long time. They've introduced data-driven multi-touch attribution in Google Analytics 4, and that can certainly be successful for you as well.
That's great. Perfect. Thank you. We do have a couple other questions coming through. I know, again, we're very tight on time, so we'll look to answer what we can individually and as part of any follow-up that we can. So as we do wrap up here, we do want to just make sure that everyone is aware of our website and some of the areas that you can grab some additional information. A variety of content in the form of blogs and webinars are constantly being produced, a lot of which focus more deeply on some of the areas that we covered today, even some of the newer things like Google SGE and the LinkedIn Connected TV and some of the best practices and resources for things like that, SEO keyword research tools and toolkits as well. So if you visit our site, carnegiehighered.com, and in particular /blog, you'll certainly find a lot of those types of resources for you. And of course, we invite you to reach out anytime at info@carnegiehighered.com. We will be sharing this recording and presentation with all of you as part of the follow-up to this, so stay tuned for that. And we also invite you, obviously, to stay tuned for all of the continued webinars and information that we'll be hosting down the road as well. So we do thank you for your time today and hope you found it valuable, and wish that everyone has a great day.